All right, guys, welcome. It is I, Commish Manny Jimenez, back for another year of the Talking Turkey Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm here with Mile High Tim. Tim, say hello.
What's up? How's it going?
Going great. Another season is upon us. And of course, we're here with Cody, Hot Cup of Java Williams. He's doing something that's
Don't forget the other prefix.
I don't know.
League champion.
I don't know what he's doing with his other hand right
I
now.
was saying he's doing
Okay, thank you.
It's definitely not safe for work scenario here. But yes, go ahead, Cody. Take your victory lap.
Here it is. Your Turkey Bowl fantasy champion is how I will now be announced as. Cody Hot Cup of Java Williams is here. You guys did not listen to my advice, and so you lost. I took my advice, and as you can see, I have evidence that I won. Maybe this year will be different, but you guys are so stubborn and hard-headed that I doubt
it. Well, congratulations to you on a great season. It was fun. Yeah. We were very displeased with the outcome, but kudos to you, and a great draft strategy and a great seasonal strategy. You know, what were two big things that really defined your championship last year?
So I had Nick Chubb as my first round pick, and he got hurt early on, but luckily I'd picked up Kyren Williams. And so a lot of it goes to Kyren. Having the Kyren Gibbs combo really spearheaded the attack there. And then the consistency of Josh Allen. I think the change in offensive coordinator to where he started running the ball a little more often and like doubled his previous career high in rushing touchdowns really kind of helped carry me all the way through the finish line. It did help that Angel dropped Calvin Ridley. He helped me get through the playoffs. So kind of all those things just came together for my fourth fantasy football title here. So you guys have been displeased a lot in the recent years.
No, yeah, Kyren was a big move. He ended up being RB3 on the season. He was fantastic. So, that was a great pickup there. And yeah, Angel bailing on Calvin Ridley too early. I mean, Calvin Ridley is Calvin Ridley. I was shocked that name was dropped, but it was, and, fell right into your lap. So, yeah. And then obviously your Gibbs draft pick panned out, and Josh Allen were exactly where they should have finished per ADP in those things. So, yeah, nice season. Good for you. I traded away a deep run, as we all know. I traded.
You did? Remind the people what that trade was.
Oh, man. I had Mike Evans and Raheem Mostert on my roster, and I was so adamant that I was happy with their early production, but I just felt like they're not going to give me this for their 14 plus weeks. It's not going to happen. So I was just Tim, is there nodding in agreement with me, Tim, or nodding because?
No, I'm saying yes, they will. They will continue to do it all year.
All year, yeah.
As long as Manny trades them away.
I don't even remember who you got in return. That's
Mixon, and someone else.
Yeah, Joe Mixon, and I don't even know because it was not.
That's how bad it was.
That's how bad it was. But I remember who I gave away because those two ended up finishing top 10 in both their positions, Raheem Mostert and Mike Evans. And so that was a tough one. I traded away with a very, very deep run, essentially, with those two players. So, Ricky ended up doing well and good for him. But ended up not giving you any chance. Competition down the stretch, so that should have been me. Unfortunate.
Yeah. It's all right. I prefer beating Ricky, my old partner, my old assistant here, on the way to the playoffs. But you really helped turn him around from an 0-5 start to a fourth place finish. That was really all. He still credits you, so I think he's never loved you more as a big brother.
And that brings up a good strategy later on that we'll discuss. Right? Is 0-5 start, and look what happened. He still made the playoffs. So. Good for him, right? Don't give up. So,
yep.
Very nice.
That was a big motto in our podcast last year. Don't give up.
Don't give up. Yep. So that's good though. So today's episode, we'll be definitely talking about some more tips and tricks that, Tim, Cody, and myself implore as we go through our draft. It is draft season for all of us. Our big draft is coming up here on Labor Day weekend. So we're a little bit more than a week out from our draft, or not even a week out, less than a week. So very exciting.
Yeah.
Yep, less than a week away. It'll be a live draft, and we'll discuss that later in the show. But a lot of people are going through their drafts now and employing draft strategies and what they're doing. Lots of big news in the NFL that it's going on right now in training camps and with players, big name players that still have a lot going on. And so we can start there with the NFL news. And CeeDee Lamb finally getting his money from the Dallas Cowboys. Long time coming. I think everybody was kind of scratching their heads on why Jerry Jones would wait so long, but it finally happened. Good deal for CeeDee, great for Dallas. Right? I don't think Dallas can operate without him in the offense. I think there would be a very subpar team without him. He's, easily one of the top 2 wide receivers in the league. Maybe top 1, but there would be a lot of debate with Tyreek Hill on that. But how do you guys feel about this news? Do you think it was well-deserved for CeeDee, or do you think Dallas overpaid, or, and how does this affect other players in the league?
I think they had to keep him. An elite wide receiver is not easy to come by. So a lot of wide receivers get drafted early and they flame out. The Chargers have had a few of those recently, but I'm not sure if they're going to pay Dak. They still have to pay Micah Parsons, I think, by next year if they want to keep him around long term. So it'll be interesting to see if they can manage to keep all 3 of them. But I'm sure they're going to prioritize Micah over Dak probably because he's a bigger difference maker. I think Dak's had enough time to show that he's probably not the guy. He's not terrible, but not going to get him over the hump. So, but yeah, I wasn't surprised at all that they signed him. They had to keep him around. So
100% agree. What about you, Cody?
Yeah, he's 90% of their offense. It feels like sometimes. He's a top 5 receiver in the league, even outside of fantasy. And when it comes to guys who are elite at every position, it's all just a matter of whose contract comes up at what time, and then they become the highest paid player. Even if they're not necessarily the number 1 best at their position, just at that time, the way the money works out, the way the salary cap works out, they end up becoming the highest paid player at that position. And he's worth it because if you don't have him, Brandon Cooks becomes your number 1 receiver. Ferguson becomes essentially your number 2 target. It would not be great. He knew he had all the leverage there. He was even clowning on the owner, Jerry Jones, and so a little bit over Twitter. And so he knew it was bound to happen, and the Cowboys had all the pressure on them with that fan base. It was bound to happen. So I don't think any of us were really surprised this finally came through today. We just were more surprised it didn't happen earlier, I'm sure.
I can't even think who's behind Brandon Cooks. Like I know NFL rosters pretty well, but like do they even have anyone that can catch behind Brandon Cooks? Who's their number 3? I don't know, but yeah,
couldn't tell you.
What did Lamb get? 200 targets last year, at least, I think, or it was close to, if not over.
I want to say it was like 185, so it wasn't too far off.
Yeah, so he's just like you said, he's basically their entire offense. They just brought back Zeke's carcass to be their number 1 running back. So we'll see how that goes.
Get the band back together.
Yeah.
I mean, they got Jalen Tolbert on the roster. I mean, but really, Jalen Tolbert's been in the league for 4 or 5 years now. Haven't really seen much from him. They got Jalen Brooks. I mean, a bunch of, there's really no one behind it. Kevontae Turpin. I mean, there's really not there. So this was a mandatory need for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think before it was Michael Gallup, and he left in this offseason. So they really, CeeDee's he got 185 last year. He might get 200 targets like Tim was saying this year.
That's right. Yeah, so good for CeeDee and good for Dallas Cowboys, good for fantasy football, right? It kind of alleviates the pressure because CeeDee is a top 5 pick essentially in the league, depending on what format you play in. So I think a lot of players who have drafted already and a lot of players who have, have drafts coming up are just kind of breathing a sigh of relief. But there's still a couple players out there who big time wide receivers that still haven't got that deal. And Cody, you talked about, right, the next tier level, that you're the next guy up, you're the next highest paid player based off of the base structures and the cap going up. It happened to Jordan Love, right? Jordan Love now is higher paid than Patrick Mahomes, which seems crazy, but that's just kind of the way it works. Right. So that's one of those situations. But wide receivers who are now waiting for their pay due are, Chase and who am I thinking of?
Ayuk,
Brandon Ayuk. Yes, Chase and Ayuk. Thank you. So with those two, what do you think is going to happen now over the next couple days here next week. All right, the season starts a little more than a week from now. So are those deals going to get signed? And I mean, you're a 49ers fan, Cody. So let's start with Aiyuk. Do you think that that's going to get done pretty quickly here?
I'm hoping so. I was a lot more confident before all these trade rumors started coming out about the front office looking to trade him to Cleveland and then Pittsburgh, possibly New England, and now after the Dotson trade, possibly Washington. So it seemed like a deal was imminent and getting done, and then Amon-Ra got his deal, and it was a little bit higher than apparently what Aiyuk was about to sign for, and so that might have kind of threw a wrench into the negotiations. And so at this point, kind of trying to follow it, I genuinely don't know. I'm hopeful they keep him. I don't want the draft picks. Let's go ahead and reunite the team and get it back together and sign him to a deal. He's worth it. He's the guy that can beat man coverage for us, and he's come through every step of the way, especially recently over the last 2 years. I'm hoping they pay him, but I'm not confident that it gets done in time or that it won't affect him going into the season.
Let me pose a question to you. Another fantasy championship or the Niners finally getting that Super Bowl in your lifetime?
I will trade all 4 of these that I've had for them to have gotten the Super Bowl last year to get it this year. It's not even close. So yes, let me see one as an adult that I can remember. Yeah, last one was when I was 4. I don't really count that. Give me one that I can remember and witness, and yeah, I'll trade all 4 of these ones that I have, and the 5th one that I get this year, I'll trade that one in too.
All right, good fandom there, like that.
Yeah.
So Ja'Marr Chase, though, another wide receiver that's having big debates, just showed up to practice, right? We talked about that with the news, him finally showing up, but still contracts looming. Who knows if he would play week 1 if nothing gets done. Tim, where do you see, how does that affect the Bengals? How does that affect Joe Burrow? How does, do you think he goes out and plays without a contract? Is he the type of player to do that, do you believe?
Well, I know he resumed practicing, so it seems like, maybe that's what he'll do. But I think if the Bengals are smart, they do whatever they can to keep him and Burrow together, Bengals for life, because they've already played in college together. They have a connection. Chase is an elite receiver. I think they have to keep him, and without him, if he plays out this year and then he walks next year, you can't replace a guy like that. T. Higgins is okay, but he's not a field stretcher like Chase. Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't got anything done with him either. But yeah, he's right. I don't know that him and Lamb are exactly the same. I think Chase is probably faster. Lamb might be a better route runner, but they're in the same tier as far as wide receivers. So yeah, I just, like I said, they got to keep him and Burrow together as long as possible. That's what I would do, at least. But yeah.
And you talked about tier right there, Tim, and about those, what that looks like as far as a Chase and CD. I mean, for me, there's 5 guys in that tier 1, right? It's CD, Tyreek Hill, Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson, and possibly Amon-Ra St. Brown or AJ Brown. I mean, interchangeable there for me, but that's who I see as those top 5 wide receivers. Do you guys agree there, or do you have a different ranking?
I would agree with those 6 that you kind of are cramming into a top 5. It's so hard to make the cutoff. But I would agree with that. I'd probably have Justin Jefferson as at the top. Like maybe I'd reshuffle some of the ordering you have there, but you definitely have the right guys.
Do you think even with the injury to JJ for the Vikings and Sam Darnold now being the starting QB in Vikings, that's not going to affect his production in any way?
I think the coaching there is so offensive minded, and they're great at getting him open, and they know how to scheme him open and can use Addison to kind of pull coverage away from him, that it'll make the throws for Darnold easy, and his choices will be easy. I wouldn't necessarily take him above some of those other guys in fantasy, but in terms of the real life football on field aspect, I would still take Justin Jefferson ahead of any of those guys right now.
Oh, okay. Over AJ Brown?
Oh yeah. AJ Brown would be closer to 5 or 6 out of that list. I'd probably put him above Amon-Ra, and so I'd have AJ Brown as my number 5.
Okay. What about you, Tim? How do you got the top 5 ranked?
Well, I mean, yeah, real life, like if I wanted the Chargers to have one of those guys, I'd say Justin Jefferson as well. I think he's the best all around. But the top three, you could debate the order, but it's Jefferson, Chase, and Hill. Well, I guess you got to throw Lamb. Maybe I should say top four.
Top four, so
you could debate the order. I mean, like none of them are bad answers really, but I just think Jefferson has he's just as good as any of them, but he'll also make the spectacular catches that seem to be more regular with him. Like he comes down with some incredible catches when his team needs it. So, but fantasy, not so much, not this year, but yeah. So I would say for me, it would be Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and then I'd put AJ Brown, probably five.
Yeah. See, I had Jefferson in my top three until JJ got hurt, and then I think it's just my doubt in Sam Darnold. All right, I've just seen him too many years and not have the faith in him. But Cody make a good point about the Vikings being very offensive minded, great offensive coach. But I just, if you're a great quarterback in the league, and he's got an ample opportunity, you make it work, and he hasn't done that. Right? We've seen the likes of Gardner Minshew's out there, and Derek Carr's still keep starting jobs, and he manages only to get it through injury. So he doesn't actually win the job outright. So that's what gives me the cause for the concern to put Jefferson in that top three. So
yeah, I mean, like even Larry Fitzgerald back in the day, who I always thought was one of the best receivers ever. He had some rough quarterback years where he was playing with a bunch of different dudes. Like Justin Jefferson last year had to deal with a few different starting quarterbacks, if I remember right. And so he didn't have his typical year. It'd be nice to see him with, a decent quarterback or a good quarterback again at some point. So just doesn't look like it's going to be this year.
Well, he dealt with the hamstring injury last year, right? Missed a few games, 4 to 5 games, maybe 6 games it was. But really affected the Angels team, right? That was his number one pick. So
yeah.
So
yeah, in other news, off-season stuff that we've been watching, the Texans, as far as teams that are getting a lot of hype, a lot of discussion around CJ Stroud with a couple new weapons there, Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon. What do you guys think is going to happen with that team? And do you think that there's going to be a sophomore slump or sophomore regression with Stroud? Or do you think they're just going to have a great chance to really shock the AFC and be one of those top 3 teams in the AFC?
It's hard to see a sophomore slump coming with the additions they made to the team. Usually if a team stays stagnant and their schedule gets harder, you can kind of see that sophomore slump, a little more readily available. But oh man, adding Diggs, they, beefed up some of their offensive line. And so and it's another year in the same system. DeMeco Ryans has another year with that defense. I can see them constantly improving. They're in a pretty weak division. I mean, the AFC South, it seems like, is one of the weakest divisions year after year. They'll have the Colts, they'll have the Titans, and they'll have the Jaguars again. Those are teams that they can beat up on, and I can see them back in the playoffs again without really having to try too hard, just by winning their division. So I really don't see a sophomore slump coming for the team in general, and then even for Stroud himself.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think the expectations are definitely higher than they were last year. So, but just from what I saw, I mean, CJ Stroud seems like he's very poised. I think he's a good leader, and now you could argue they have the best top 3 wide receivers in the league. They've got Dalton Schultz, who's a good tight end, better running back than they had last year. So if they underperform last year, or if they don't do as well or better than last year, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, make a good point there. And Joe Mixon, right? I mean, even though he is getting on the older side of the running back, I think he's 28, 29 now, almost 30. But his pass catching ability has never been in doubt. He's always been an excellent pass catcher out of the backfield. So that just gives him another weapon. So essentially, CJ has 5 weapons to throw to, right? You're talking Mixon, Schultz, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Stephon Diggs. So that's one ball for a lot of guys. I think the offense is going to do well. I hope there's not animosity in the team. I mean, if you look at that team, holistically, it should be really exciting. It should be really fun. But sometimes that doesn't always work out for fantasy or for real football, right? Because for fantasy, you'll have those. Let's say you draft a Tank Dell or you draft a Nico Collins. You're going to have 2 or 3 games where they blow up, and then you might have 2 games where there's duds because the ball's going to go to another player for that next game, right? They're trying to share it. So you're going to go through the volatilities with that. So that's why, when we talk about draft strategy, targeting teams with not so many weapons is sometimes key, but it's hard to know what's going to happen here, right? As long as CJ Stroud has the production he had from last season, there should be plenty for these guys to eat. But if there is a little regression, obviously it's going to affect everybody's numbers. So we'll see what happens. But are you guys, excited to watch that team, or is there another team out there that you prefer to see as far as potential offensive powerhouse?
In terms of like younger up and coming teams, because there's teams that are offensive powerhouses that, have kind of been stable and stay at the top 5 to 7 year to year.
Oh yeah. We can talk that Chiefs kind of fit that mold, right? And they don't have even having a number 1 wide receiver. Maybe this season their wide receiving core now is pretty diverse and pretty unique. So maybe it might be the best one they've had since Tyreek left. But who's an up and coming team that you see as another high powered offense that could really, show some new progression in the new landscape?
So the Texans are a good one, but another one is kind of the Bears. I know you hate them as a Packer fan, but having Caleb Williams there, they have 3 receivers as well with the rookie of Odunze. They got, Tim's Keenan Allen over there for a year. And then DJ Moore's been there for a while, just begging them to get a QB that can actually throw him the ball instead of just give him screens. So I would put them up there. They got Cole Kmet as a tight end who can kind of rival Schultz in that tight end range. And then they signed Swift. They still have Khalil Herbert. They still have Roschon Johnson. That's kind of a better running back trio than what the Texans have. So I can see them kind of competing with the Texans in terms of that fun to watch team. Even if they don't end up with a lot of wins, I can see them ending up in a lot of red zone, exciting situations near end of games.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. Caleb Williams, I think he's going to be frustrating for Bears fans this year. He'll have moments of brilliance and moments of stupidity, probably just like he did in college, where he hangs onto the ball too long. But he made an incredible throw in one of the preseason games, like rolling out to his left and threw it 50 yards down the field to Odunze. So should be fun to watch them. I think their defense is probably underrated too a little bit, but they should be a much better all around team, assuming that Williams is somewhat competent. But then you got to go with the Dolphins too, of course. I wouldn't say they're up and coming, but last year was pretty big leap from the year before as far as scoring points. So if all those guys can stay healthy for them, they seem to always have someone injured. Like if they could get Hill and Waddle and Achane and Mostert, all healthy at the same time for a good stretch, that's going to be it should be exciting to watch them too.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, while I cannot stand the Bears, Cody, you're 100% correct there. The division is, if JJ hadn't gotten hurt for the Vikings, I think it would have been an awesome division to watch this year, with the Lions being the top dogs, right? I'll still admit that the Lions are still number 1, Packers being number 2, and the Bears could slide into that number 2 spot depending what happens. But the Packers had a remarkable season last year, and Jordan Love showed the second half of the season he was one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And their wide receiving core, again, they're another team that, like the Chiefs, doesn't have a clear number 1. They're kind of all those guys step in and do their jobs, and it's kind of cool to see. I like teams kind of built that way. It's very Packer-esque, as team with no owner. No, they're kind of like a collective. So I like that philosophy they're taking in the season. We'll see what happens too. But the NFC North is definitely going to be very different looking this year, right? Very, very tight race. So that's exciting to see. Where AFC South, we kind of see clear cut. Texans could run away with that pretty early. NFC North is up for grabs. Even the Lions have a couple bad games here and there. Who knows what could happen? So, but the Lions are definitely a team that everybody should watch out for, I believe, right? Offensively and defensively, and their mindset's ready. I think they have players ready to go. I think Gibbs is going to make a giant leap again this year. So it's going to be very, very good. Very fun to watch. All right. Good stuff.
Honorable mention to Washington too. I'm curious to see how they do with Jayden Daniels.
Jayden Daniels, okay.
Yeah. Even trading Dotson away, who's he have to throw to besides Scary Terry?
I'll have Austin Eckler there to catch 100 passes. That's all they brought Austin Eckler in for. He's probably not going to get any running back carries. They're just going to throw screens to him probably.
Austin is playing the wing back now. He's not playing running back anymore. He's wing back. He's going to be He's going to do what they wish their other guy was. Who was the guy that they had before that was supposed to be their utility guy?
Antonio Gibson. Yeah, his number one pick a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't want to say his name. Agib. Yeah, but so Austin Eckler will be a massive improvement of that. So yeah, no, Jayden Daniels. I mean, he's quick off his feet. I love the way he moves in the pocket. He's very exciting to me. He really reminds me of old RG3 in those first couple of years when he played. Just fun, right? I mean, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the passing game might not be that exciting. I don't know, just his overall ability rushing, and I mean, at least he's got McLaurin. He's got a good receiver, but you're right, not much behind him. But yeah, he should at least make that offense more exciting than they were last year. So,
all right, so let's get into the next phase of this discussion tonight, guys. Is about our tips and tricks, right? Going into draft season, going into our draft. People watching, people, trying to find strategies. I'm in a lot of leagues now where there's a lot of new guys that are playing with fantasy football for the first time ever. So I'm kind of saying, all right, yeah, giving them tips, giving them things. I'm like, oh, that's a good discussion for us to do and talk about a couple of things that we do each when it comes to a draft and how we approach a draft and what are things that we make sure that we can give out as information and a way to really have fun with this, because it is a game and it's fun. There's strategy to it, right? But there's a lot of luck that's also involved. But reducing the amount of luck can be a way to improve the whole fun of the event. So, Cody, I'm gonna go ahead and start with you. Or Tim, do you want to start? Tim, I'll let you start. Give us two things that to have a decent draft. Two tips that you really implore when you get out there, when you approach your drafts. And I know you have multiple drafts that you do through a couple weeks. So, what are the couple things that you really focus on?
Well, number one is, for me, the last two rounds are for kicker and defense. I never take either before the last two rounds. Most leagues have a kicker and defense. So obviously I think there's some out there that don't, but I always play in that type of league, and I don't bother picking a defense. Usually I'll take defense the last round, kicker the second to last round. Sometimes I might switch it, but either way, I'm not picking them before the last two rounds.
I tried to remove the kickers last offseason. After the end of the season, I tried to get it out, and it was disapproved. Cody's sitting there giving it thumbs down, but yeah.
Keep the kickers in.
Keep the kickers in. I tried to boot them off because I don't want that draft pick anymore, but yeah, there's still a big collection of our people that want the kicker. But that's great advice, Tim, right? I mean, and that's great advice for new players, right? New players might think, oh, they're in 17th round. I really got to get a defense. No, you really don't. Defense is a position you could stream a lot. All right, kickers, if you go and look back, the top 10 kickers are relatively close in scoring over the season. So, yeah, you're right. Leave those for the end. Don't get hamstrung by, being like Andrew and drafting Justin Tucker in the 7th round or.
Hey, it sounds like Tim will never be able to draft Tucker, but there are rare occasions. Don't forget the Cowboys defense really carried Javi for many a week, and so they single-handedly won him games. So there are certain times where taking the defense a little earlier than the last two, if they do pan out, can kind of come in handy for you if they get a lot of sacks and a lot of turnovers. They can surprise people, score 20, 25 points, and that's a weak win for you.
Well, that's true, but last year there were 4 defenses taken ahead of the Cowboys. And, like the first defense was taken in the 8th round, which is, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are good defenses, but a lot of times
achieved later. Yes.
Yeah. Like there's usually a few surprise teams that like their defenses perform better than anticipated. And so, I mean, it doesn't know, like I usually stream defenses. It doesn't always work out. But a lot of times the matchup is more important than anything. Like the Cowboys got to beat up on a lot of terrible teams last year, but when they
The
played a good
Giants and the
team,
Commanders again and again.
yeah. So that's obviously a part of it too, like who they're playing. But generally, I just think defenses there's a lot more variance and there's a lot more surprises compared to other positions. So that's just something I stick by. So you don't have to do it, but I just I think it's not worth wasting an earlier pick on one of those positions when there's still value at running back and wide receiver usually. So
nice. So pro tip number 1 for all of you out there from Tim. All right, Tim, what about number 2? What do you got for us?
Number 2 is you should probably listen to Cody more closely than me. No, just based on recent history. But no, just like, if you're drafting, don't go into it thinking I have to do my first 2 picks have to be this, or I have first 3 or however many. Like, don't think you have to get certain positions at a certain point. Like, oh, my first 2 picks have to be running backs or they have to be wide receivers. Unless you're picking first, you don't know who's going to be there, or I guess you could argue second, because I'm sure Christian McCaffrey is going number 1 everywhere this year. But you never know how it's going to go. You never know who's going to fall to you. So don't assume that you have to take a running back with your first pick just because you want to. There might be no running backs left, especially in our league. After the first 10 picks, all the elite running backs are probably gone. So
slim pickings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you're after this first 10 picks, you're drafting RBs that are backups that you hopefully think are going to get into starting roles late in the season. That's kind of how it works. So, yeah. But pretty no, great strategy there. I like that. This is good strategies for beginner players who are learning. Maybe some players in our league who don't get it at times, right? We consistently have similar people in that bottom 4. Maybe they can employ some of these strategies and not draft Justin Tucker in the 7th round. Right? Find some value with the wide receiver or running back, in a depth chart somewhere. So, thank you, Tim. Good stuff. Love that. Cody,
really hope Andrew doesn't watch this video. Keep things the way you're doing it, man. You're doing great.
He didn't listen to us all last year with the Commanders defense, though. So I don't think he's paying too much attention to what we say. So,
all right, Cody, what about you? What do you got for us? Give us pro tip number 1.
So tips for a successful draft for any league. I would say any league that I go into, if I'm new or not, check your league settings. Know if it's PPR, is it 2 quarterback, is it half point PPR, is it full standard? Some leagues even nowadays have a super flex where you can play any player, quarterback, running back, receiver, doesn't matter, which kind of acts like a 2 QB league. So know your league settings before you go into it. If you print out a cheat sheet that's a PPR cheat sheet and you're going into a standard draft, you're going to wonder why everyone's taking running backs when your first 12 on your cheat sheet all are receivers. So know your league settings, pay attention to the detail. If you're in a live draft like we're going to be and you have a cheat sheet in front of you, make sure it matches up somewhat with your league settings. If you do start researching, make sure you are researching things, watching videos towards those settings in your draft. If you're doing a lot of research on standard drafts and you're joining a basic ESPN PPR league, not really going to help you out too much. You're probably not going to do all that well. So that's the biggest one for me is know your league settings. If you go to the draft, know, is it 60 seconds? Is it 2 minutes? Know how much time you're going to have. Is there a kicker? Is there no kicker? You need to even research that. Just really know your settings before you go into the draft so you know what to research.
Love it. No, it's
like in our league. Sorry, Manny. I was going to say, like in our league, we get points for return yards. If you have a wide receiver or that returns punts and kicks, that could be some monster weeks if they're any good at that. So like Rashid Shaheed last year, for I think Carlos had him, and he had a lot of good weeks. And he'd catch the occasional 50-yard touchdown, but he got a lot of return yards too. So that can make a big difference with a particular player.
Well, I think he had a couple games where he had the return, a punt or a kick return and the touchdown, right? So like monster game in just that respect.
Yeah.
So exactly. Yep. Know what that player can do. Know their flexibility, right? We had an issue before where Taysom Hill right? Who was a kind of a utility player in our league before. Tim knows this scenario very well, where Taysom Hill got activated as a QB, but a league setup had him as a tight end. So, of course, I basically played a two quarterback league in a single quarterback format because Taysom Hill was listed as a tight end. So know the players, know where they're assigned to in your platform that you're using. That way you can get that slightly competitive edge. So good call there. I love that, Cody. What's number 2? What do you got for the people?
The other biggest pro tip that I have is not to forget that this is all a game. It's based off these players running around on the field playing a game. It's a game based off of another game. So have fun with it. Tailor your draft strategy, tailor your team so that you have fun. If you're only going to have fun if you win, like I do, tailor your strategy so that you can win. Try hard, do some research, take players that might not be involved with your favorite team and go that route. And that's how you're going to have fun. Go for it that way. But also, there's no hard feelings in if you're going to have more fun if you have players who are on the team you're already rooting for. If Tim starts drafting Chargers or Manny's drafting Packers, reaching a round or two early in order to get Jordan Love, in order to get some of those receivers or running backs that are on the team you're already rooting for. If that's going to help you have fun with this, then, go ahead and do that. Don't try and hopefully this sheet says they're number 59. I'm pick 48. Maybe I can't take them. If you're going to have fun with them, rooting for them, scoring touchdowns, make you happier, go ahead and take them. This is all about having fun. Go for it.
Nice. Love that. And for the record, Tim and I will not be selecting Chargers or Packers. So.
Even Packers. Wow. Okay. I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, no, again, there's one ball to go around. There's a lot of weapons, right? You're going to have too much volatility in the way I see it, right?
In fairness, it's mostly a Raider and Cowboy fan thing. They seem to take their players whether they're good or not. So you guys don't really fall into that demographic.
Yeah, I don't even know who I would pick for the Chargers this year anyway. So, there's too much up in the air. I have no idea who's going to get the ball in that offense. So the Packers, at least, Jordan Love, I think you kind of know what you can expect from him.
Jordan Love is the guy that you would take, of course.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Josh Jacobs, but I think he'll be fine. I don't know. He'll be better than AJ Dillon, that's for sure. So
yeah. But is he going to be better? Is he going to be better than Aaron Jones? I don't know. Aaron Jones was pretty phenomenal last season.
When he wasn't
probably
hurt.
Probably be on the field more, but he's not going to be better than Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's not going to matter anyway. Edgar still thinks he's a Raider, so he's going to take him in round 2.
Solid point. All right. No, great tips, guys. Great tips. And for my first tip, I'll call this the stack attack, right? And this is just kind of a strategy that I've seen over the years. I've employed here and there with many leagues that I've had. It's done well. In other leagues last year, especially, I had in a couple leagues, I had the Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb stack, and it won, leagues for me in the past. Like when you stack a quarterback with that wide receiver, if you get an elite wide receiver, and that's, again, we're talking about Chase, we're talking about Tyreek Hill, maybe not Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Jefferson, that Kirk Cousins. When you have that stack going on with quarterback and wide receiver, that wide receiver is going to give you that 25 plus point a game, 30-point game, like a Tyreek Hill. But who gave him those balls? The quarterback. So if you had Tua if you had that Tua Hill stack last year, you were getting monster points every week. Typically, those two players could sometimes win you a week because that's a combined 50, 60 points right there. And sometimes that's enough to win the week for you. In our league, especially like when you have standard scoring, when you're relying so much on running backs, and running backs have a down week, and you have that stack playing in your favor, it really can give you over the hump, and it can really drive you to have 3 or 4 extra wins on the season that you didn't know. So the stack attack is big. Something for new players to think about. Players, in our league try to do that, I think, but our draft goes kind of haywire early on where people get selected out of their ADP pretty quick. So it's hard to do that. But, if you ever get that stack opportunity, it's something that I always like to do as like, hey, if I have the opportunity to get there, I'm going to do that, right? Like the Burrow Chase stack is amazing, right? The Tyreek Tua stack is amazing. I would even say this year, the Collins CJ Stroud or Tank Dell CJ Stroud stack is probably going to be awesome this year. So those are the type of opportunities that you're looking for if it's presented to you, right? Again, don't reach too early for a player. And then that's kind of counterintuitive what I'm saying, but if that opportunity presents itself, don't be afraid to take that. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm personally not, in terms of redraft leagues, not a fan of the stack, just because if they tend to go against a bad defense, or a good defense rather, and have a bad offensive output, that's a big chunk of your team that's going to be missing out on points. So I guess you could say high risk, high reward. Yeah. When it comes to kind of the DraftKings model, or maybe even best ball, I can see the stack attack working, but from a pure redraft league, I'm personally not a fan of it. I've never really done it, and I've seen other people try it and seen it kind of fail. I think Tua was even QB number 11 and 12. So even though Hill was receiver 1, Tua still, wouldn't you rather have the receiver 1 plus the QB 5 over that stack? So that's just kind of how I look at it. I know Tim had Hill last year. I don't know how he would have felt if he had Tua. What do you think, Tim?
Well, considering I drafted Justin Fields as my starting quarterback,
I think you would have been very happy with Tua.
Yeah, Tua would have been a massive upgrade. But I'm on the fence about it too, because you have to get it right first of all. I mean, if you don't, then you're stuck, and you have to find a different quarterback or whatever. But if you get it right, and on the weeks that they play bad defenses, then that's gonna probably get you a win. That's how Hobby won a lot of his games last year. I mean, he had a super stack with the Cowboys defense too.
Exactly. Hobby had the stack last year. Worked out great for a lot of games for him. All right, what about the Mahomes and Kelce stack? That's a week win probably.
Yeah, in years past, that's been a big one. Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen it in any league I've been in, to be honest. I don't know that I've ever seen a team that had both of them, but
so let's say
be a good stack.
You had your pick 7, and then you had Kelce drop to you in the second round, and you ended up taking Kelce. But then in the 4th or 5th round, Mahomes is there for you. Are you inclined to maybe possibly think about taking that?
Oh, at that, yes. Yeah. At that rate, at that range, yeah, I would definitely do it.
Yeah. Especially depending on it depends on what quarterbacks have already been taken too. If some of the others have already been taken, then Mahomes had a down year last year, but he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So he's still, going to be in most people's probably top 5 in terms of fantasy quarterbacks. So if he's in the 4th or 5th round and you got Kelce already, that's as long as they're both healthy all year, that's that's going to be a good stack every week. So that's one that is almost automatic, but with others, it's not always the case. So
it's hard
tough.
to info. Yeah. And Cody, you make a good point for the DFS. It is a big thing. I took that to a Hill stack plenty of times in my DFS leagues last year, and won my DFS week. My little mini leagues. Tim plays in those with us as well, so he knows that as long as you get in the top 2 or 3, you're in the money. So it's nice.
So then, would you reach a round or 2 in order to make the stack happen? If you happen to have, Josh Allen, would you reach a round or 2 for Kincaid? Or, if you had taken AJ Brown in the first round at the end, are you taking Hurts at the end of the second round, or are you taking Hurts early to try and get the stack to work?
That leads right into my second pro tip here. Don't be afraid to get your guy. No matter no matter what they are, right? The ESPN is going to put a listing. All these draft sites are going to put a listing. If you have conviction in your guys, draft your guys. So yeah, if I draft AJ Brown in that first round, and in round 3 I see Jalen Hurts there, I'm 100% taking that, because Jalen Hurts for me is a running back and a quarterback. So I'm not just getting the air yards, I'm getting the ground yards too. So right, those running quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, those are important to me. So if I have that ability to do that, I'm 100% going to take that stack, because I know it's going to produce. And I'm not just getting the air yards, I'm getting the ground yards too. So yes, in that scenario, 100% going to reach up to take Jalen Hurts. I like Jalen Hurts. I had him a couple years ago, carried me all the way through to a deep run. Didn't work out because he got hurt late in the year. But he is a quality, fantasy quarterback, right? Real life. He's a pretty good quarterback in real life, but fantasy quarterback's excellent. So yeah, I would definitely not hesitate to jump on that stack. Even the Dallas Goedert at one point and the Jalen Hurts stack was pretty good, but the AJ Brown Hurts stack is a nice one, and I would definitely take that if it was presented to me 100%. So my second tip being, if you got a guy you really like in that second or third round, but that ADP says he's 21, 22, don't be afraid to take him. Don't be afraid to take the guys that you really have conviction in. Don't be afraid to take the guys that are going to make, as Cody said earlier, make your team fun, make your team enjoyable to watch, right? If you really like watching Raiders games and you're a huge Raiders fan and you don't want to watch Davante Adams score against you, get Davante Adams. Don't be that asshole that lets him fall to someone else because you really, you're going to be, it makes the actual watching the Raider game unenjoyable for you because you let him drop to another player. Take him so it doesn't, affect you when you're watching on Sundays, right? So for me, ADP, while it is important, it's not everything. And, draft your guys. And Tim can attest. There's a draft that we just did recently in another league, and I took some guys much earlier than their average ADP. And that's just because I wanted to take a chance on some flyers, and I have conviction in these guys. I'll give the example, Kyler Murray. I believe Kyler Murray this season is back. I believe Kyler Murray is going to be the Kyler Murray from 2 years ago. When he was incredible. I have a lot of conviction in him. I think the offense is going to be excellent, right? Last year was bummer what he dealt with, coming back from an injury, but he actually looked great towards the end of the season when he started doing his thing again. I think Kyler has a unique special set of skills around the end zone. If he's within 10 yards, he's going to do auction and run that ball in. That's just kind of what he does. So I think Kyler's grown up a little bit, and I think their offense with the addition of Marvin Jones Jr. is going to be awesome. They drafted also a running back that I'm really fond of. I have his name here, Trey Benson. So yeah, Trey Benson. I really like what I'm seeing for Arizona. I think Kyler getting more weapons and a more structure around him is going to be a much better team. So I drafted him probably a round sooner or two than he should have, right? Because I think the ADP had him at like QB 13 or 12 or 13. I took him as the QB 6, I think, in the league. So,
yep.
So take your guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last year, my championship run, I drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in round 2, and I think it ended up being 21 overall, I believe was the pick. And in all the cheat sheets, he was kind of listed in the mid 30s. But doing some research, the Lions' offensive line was great. They were going to be run heavy. I didn't see Montgomery to be as much of a threat to steal carries from him as he was. It started off rough. But then once he got going and Montgomery missed time, unfortunately, Gibbs got few more carries and started looking electric out there. That back half of the season was money for him. And so if I hadn't reached, and maybe taken someone else who was within that range, like a Joe Mixon, or Dameon Pierce was going in the second round as well, the team would not have been good. So if you do your own research, go ahead. Don't be afraid to believe in the guys you believe in and go ahead and get them.
He wouldn't have fallen to you. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Because I was going to pick him. Yeah. And I would have been the one frustrated the first half of the year with him. But when he picked him, I wasn't surprised, but I thought he would fall to my next pick. So
yeah.
And I forget where I picked last year. I think I picked 11. So
yeah. You got Hill, Tyreek Hill at pick 11 is not bad though. But that was in the first round.
Yeah, that's a big job.
Pick 11.
Big value pick there at 11.
Yeah.
So those are our pro tips, and I'm glad you guys agree with the draft your guys. Don't be afraid to do that, right? Have fun with it, right? It's important, and know your league rules is a great tip there, right? It makes a lot of sense, and just really understanding the landscape that you're in is really, really important. So thank you guys really much. I hope people listening take some of these, and maybe Andrew, don't listen to any of these. We don't want you or Edgar. You guys can tune out to this episode, but everybody else.
Tip number 3 for those two guys: just be you. All right, just be you. Do what you're doing.
I just wanted to add, though. I mean, sometimes when you reach for the guys, and people give you a hard time about it, and then they actually do what you expected them to. That's a pretty good feeling as well. Like I reached for J.K. Dobbins last year, and that didn't work out because he tore his Achilles week 1. But man, I really had high hopes for him.
But you know what, Tim? I don't think anybody questioned that because everybody. For me, I thought he would have a great year. And look at the way Baltimore's offense ran last year. If he was healthy, he would have been a machine. I mean, he would have crushed, considering the way that offense runs, right? I mean,
but with him specifically, that's part of the risk. That's not the first time that's happened.
I know, but I mean that sometimes you got to take risks on players too. You know, that's like, you know, if you believe a guy is going to have a big year, like biggest example I can think of is Adrian Peterson. He tore his ACL. I remember I was in a fantasy league. I drafted him, I think, in the 3rd round. It was like late 2nd, early 3rd round, and I got every single person in the league like laughed at me, told me I was crazy, you know, whatever you could think of, and then he runs for 2,000 yards.
Let's say he runs for a career 2,000 yards. Yeah,
but
league winner.
He wasn't necessarily injury prone though. Like Dobbins is definitely injury prone. Peterson, I think that was his only major injury. I think he otherwise was pretty durable from what I remember. So, but sometimes you got to take risks on guys like that. Like Dobbins, when he's healthy, he's definitely played great, but you know, some guys just can't stay on the field, and it's, you know, but McCaffrey got that label too, and you know, maybe he just didn't want to play that badly when he was in Carolina. So
maybe,
who knows?
No, good deal. Yeah, and that's right. You just let people rip you, but stand by your convictions. And if it doesn't pan out, that's okay. But hey, as you said, Tim, if it does pan out when you take a guy early and he ends up being that dude, right? As Cody got Gibbs last year, you're looking like the smartest one, and they can take you to a championship. So take your guys, believe in them, do your research on them, and if you got convictions, the hell with the ADP, go for it. All right, guys. So last topic of the night, we'll keep it here at 3 segments. So we're going to talk about our draft coming up this weekend. You know, as we're running down on time here, we got a live draft coming up, which would be on Sunday before Labor Day.
Yep.
Our league's, you know, coming up to our 20-year anniversary, which I'm really excited about. And every single year we've done a digital draft, except one year, and this is pre-Cody, pre-Tim, we did a live draft. And the live draft ended up being at a former member of the league's house, and his family was there, and it was a whole carne asada and everything. I think our draft started at 10 or 11 in the morning, and I think we left there after 9 o'clock p.m. It ended up being a real S show. I mean, it was so bad. Angel had to leave to work. He was in his 18-wheeler and calling every few minutes, calling us for his pick, and kind of phoning it in. It was a mess, and so left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. We had a digital format post that, and we said, yep, we're going to stick with digital format. However, at the end of last season, the league decided to implement a live draft again for this year. So we're at a live draft. How do you guys feel about it? Are you excited? What are your expectations from it? Now that you guys have been in the league a few years and you've done this digital only, what are you expecting to see different in a live draft scenario?
I personally am excited for people to, in a live draft scenario, you're not staring at the ADP and at ESPN's rankings just put forth in front of you, because our league's here in ESPN. You'll have to go and print out the cheat sheet of your own choosing and bring it to the draft. And it doesn't necessarily send an auto pick your way. There could be a lot of panics and a lot of reaching if people aren't prepared. So I'm excited to see who ends up reaching the most when they're kind of panicking and people are saying, hey, hurry up, it's your pick. Come on, it's been 5 minutes. And they start to panic, and all of a sudden, they draft Tua in the 3rd round. I'm excited to see that happen. And so that tends to happen a little more often in the live drafts than in the online format.
Yeah. It's kind of a hybrid though, right? I mean, we're gonna have a time limit. Like I've been in live drafts where like it's just, there's no timer. It's just some people take 10, 15 minutes to make their pick. And that's when it turns into an all day thing, but it's still fun. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be there because I'm, 1,000 miles away, but I'll be there virtually, and I'm looking forward to just seeing who gets the drunkest and who picks someone who's already on IR or someone who's retired. And any of that sort of stuff that tends to happen in live drafts. So it's kind of like what Cody's talking about. People panic and they just throw out a name, and it's someone who retired last year. So so it should be entertaining. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
It should be entertaining. Should be a good time. I'm also excited to see people drafting their own teams. That'll be nice again this year.
Yes, there was a lot of controversy last year on ChatGPT playing a hand in some draft decisions last season, or trying to eliminate that. I think that's why the league overwhelmingly agreed to this live draft scenario. I think there's only a couple members who are adamantly against it, but I think that's just because of the bad taste they had from the last time we did this. I'm personally excited for it. It will be hosted, at the commissioner's house in the backyard. So I'll have the big board ready to go. It should be fun. There'll be a lot of drinks involved. There will be plenty of drinking games associated to the draft. So Andrew and Edgar, please don't fail us because we were trying to stay on our feet. All right. Pre-draft day predictions here. Who will be the drunkest?
I mean, if we're betting on it, do you want to bet on the heavy favorite or do you go with an underdog? Are you just going to bet on Angel, or are you going to try and find someone? What? I'm gonna go. With an underdog. I'm gonna say Ricky. He's back here in California. Like Tim, he used to be out of state New Mexico. This will be the first time he's drafting. With us in person. He's gonna be so excited. He's gonna start drinking and then keep drinking. I'm gonna go Ricky. That'll be my underdog favorite pick, who I would bet on to try and win back the most money.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
I haven't hung around you guys in person enough to really be able to say, but I mean, the only one that I've seen actually get drunk out of any of the group is Angel at his house. So, I mean,
at his house,
he was puking from what I remember. So, I mean, I got to go with Angel, even though it's the easy pick.
It's the right pick, Tim. It's the right pick.
Yeah, it is.
He's a fun drunk too, though. So I hope he doesn't get sick drunk, but I'm sure he'll get drunk. So
there's always potential, Tim. There's always potential.
Yeah. So
I think Andrew will put a few back and start making some fun picks. I think Andrew will really liven up the draft. He likes to shake up things with the draft, and I think some of his picks will have us belting out in hilarity and people will lose time because of it. So it'll be pretty unique to see what happens there. But it'll be very fun, exciting. We'll see how this goes. And, obviously food will be provided. It'll be a whole event and we'll do some swimming after and chalk fit up after. But Tim, if we get a GoFundMe going to get you a flight out to California, right? I mean, it's Denverdale or Orange County is not far. We can get you there.
Yeah, 3-hour flight, not bad.
It's only a couple hours, but I think I don't think I think I have to do something on. Well, if it was just that day, maybe, but
just that day.
Yeah,
I don't know. We could throw you back on the plane after.
That'd be rough. Yeah, that'd be rough. So.
That would be pretty awesome, though. Like he flies in the morning, we send him back in the last flight out at night. Back to
You're
Denver.
taking the red eye home.
Yeah. Your wife would not be pleased with me.
I'll be here with spirits. So
there we go.
I'll play some drinking games, and I'm hoping that Andrew just starts a tradition of taking the Commanders defense every year. I think he has to, right? Like it's got to be his yearly tradition now. Commanders
kept him out of last place. Kept him out of last place.
Kept him out of last place. He had to start. He got to start him every week too, not just draft him. He's got to start him every week. Yeah.
He wasn't doing that last year though.
Yeah, he wouldn't drop him. That's for sure. So we'll see how it goes. Exciting. Next show we'll do a post-mortem of the draft and we'll see what happens and see if these picks pan out, and we'll see if we get consensus or we're going back to full digital the following year. So we'll find out. But
a little draft recap.
It'll be exciting, be fun. We'll have my brother drafting from Japan, so that'll be good. Well, hopefully, he'll join the link and be a part of the festivities. But
the chaos,
it should be good. But 10 out of 12 isn't not bad. So I'm pretty happy that we'll have a.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. All right, guys.
Just to clarify, we are just like for me, I'll be telling you my pick over Zoom, and you're gonna put the sticker on the.
Put the sticker on the board. That's it.
Yeah, you'll be covered. You'll have to get it in over Zoom, but we'll have you covered for the rest of it. You got to do your own drinking too, though.
Well, that won't be a problem.
Okay.
That's right. But yeah, you and Javi will be over Zoom, and then that'll be that.
Doesn't count as drinking alone if there's people there virtually, right?
So, that's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%. Exactly it.
All
right, guys. Well,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, good show. Thank you guys for joining. I'm glad the season's back and looking forward to our next discussion. Have a good night. Have a good week, right? Do your homework and
draft week.
Listening draft week, right? So get yourself prepped up and have fun. Right?
Everyone, make sure Cody gets really drunk before the draft. All right. That's who I should have picked. I don't know why I didn't pick Cody, but
I think Cody's gonna pull
the challenge. Is that a challenge?
Cody's gonna pull the old drinks in a cup.
It's a double dare. It's a double dare.
Oh, from both of you.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night.
All right, you too.
Take care.
All right, have a good one.